The ranger was dying. Blood soaked through his uniform, dark against snow that had fallen for 3 days without mercy. His breath came in shallow clouds that hung in the frozen air. The fall had shattered his leg, a compound fracture that spelled doom in wilderness this remote. No radio signal, no helicopter could land in this weather. Just cold and the certainty that comes when the body begins its final surrender. And in the tree line, yellow eyes watched. The gray wolf stood motionless, a shadow carved from winter itself. He had tracked the scent for 3 miles, bleeding into the forest floor like a trail meant only for predators. Hunger gnawed at his ribs. 15 days since his last real meal. 15 days of failed hunts and empty dens. The dying man would not run. The dying man could not fight. Easy prey. Necessary prey. The wolf's muscles tensed, ready to close the distance. 10 feet separated predator from prey. 10 feet and a choice that should not have existed. But the wind shifted, carrying the man's scent fully to the wolf's nose, and with it came something that stopped him cold. Recognition. This scent beneath the blood and fear was known. Remembered, connected to something the wolf had buried deep in the animal place where gratitude lives wordlessly. The gray wolf's mind pulled him backward through time, through 6 winters, to different snow and different pain. He had been younger then, his muzzle still dark, his body lean with the reckless confidence of youth. That winter had been brutal, temperatures that froze breath, snow that buried the world. The elk herds had fled south into valleys he could not follow. Starvation had carved him hollow, made him desperate enough to wander too close to human territory. The trap had been hidden under fresh snow, camouflaged perfectly. When his paw found it, steel jaws closed with the sound of breaking branches. Pain exploded white-hot through his leg, so intense it turned the world to static. He had thrashed until foam gathered at his muzzle, screamed until his throat was raw, chewed at his own leg until blood painted the snow red and his teeth scraped bone. He was still fighting the trap when he heard footsteps, the crunch of boots on frozen earth. Human scent, sharp, alien, terrifying. This was death approaching. The wolf had snarled, baring bloodied teeth, preparing to die fighting. But the human moved slowly, speaking in low tones. Easy now. Easy, wolf. The man wore a green uniform, his face hidden behind a thick beard crusted with ice. He knelt in the snow. The wolf snapped at him, jaws closing inches from human flesh, but the man didn't flinch. Instead, his gloved hands worked the trap mechanism. I know it hurts, just hold on. Metal groaned, the pressure released like a prayer answered. The wolf felt the steel teeth open, felt his mangled paw come free. For a heartbeat predator and human locked eyes, the wolf seeing something he had no name for. Not conquest, not cruelty, something else entirely. The wolf had lunged, snapping at air, then stumbled away on 3 good legs and 1 shattered, dragging himself into the darkness while the men simply watched him go. Live, wolf, the ranger had called after him, voice carrying through frozen air. Go live. The wolf had collapsed in a ravine half a mile away, certain he would die there. The leg was ruined, infection already setting in. But somehow, through will or luck, or the same mysterious force that had made the human open the trap, he survived. The leg healed crooked but functional. He could run again, though storms made the old injury ache. 2 months later, driven by something he didn't understand, the wolf had returned to that ranger station. He'd watched from the forest edge, neither approaching nor fleeing. The ranger sat on his porch eating alone. Their eyes met across the distance, neither moved. Then the ranger set down his plate, stood slowly, and went inside. When he returned, he carried a haunch of venison. He walked to the tree line and set it down in the snow, then backed away with hands visible, empty. For the leg, the ranger said quietly, "We're even now." The wolf had eaten that night, tearing into meat that tasted like reprieve. The ranger had watched through his window until dawn painted the mountains gold. After that night, the wolf sometimes saw the ranger in the forest. They never approached each other, but there was acknowledgement, recognition that something existed between them that had no name in either of their languages. Rain began to fall now, pulling the gray wolf back to the present. Cold rain, turning to sleet. 6 years had passed since the trap, 6 winters of survival, of leading his pack, of hunting and defending territory. But the memory remained vivid, preserved in the place where animals keep the things that matter. The ranger stirred slightly, consciousness flickering. His eyes opened, unfocused, and found the wolf standing 10 feet away. No fear crossed his face, only recognition, and something that might have been acceptance, even gratitude. "You," the ranger whispered, voice like wind through dead grass. "It's you." The gray wolf's ears swiveled forward, catching every nuance of sound. "Fitting," the man continued, each word costing him something. "That it's you. I'm glad it's not alone." The wolf took another step closer. The scent of blood was overwhelming now, copper and salt and infection beginning. The man's pulse was weakening, irregular, his body temperature dropping. Death was perhaps an hour away, maybe less. Every instinct screamed at the wolf to feed. His pack was hungry, his own belly was hollow. This was meat that would not resist, that was already half claimed by death. The natural order was clear. The forest had its laws, no mercy in the wild, no room for debt or memory, only survival, only the endless cycle of predator and prey. But the gray wolf remembered a trap opening, remembered a voice that had said live when it could have said nothing at all. He turned away from the dying man, turned and began to move through the trees, not fleeing, but searching with desperate purpose. His nose worked the wind, sorting through 1,000 scents. His eyes scanned the forest floor. Somewhere in this wilderness there had to be signs, trails, some thread that led back to other humans who might help. There, boot prints in mud not yet frozen, old maybe 2 days, but clear enough. The direction the ranger had come from. The gray wolf began to run, not for prey, not for his pack, for something that transcended instinct, for the strange debt between two beings who had saved each other's lives. He ran until his paws bled, leaving red prints in snow, until his lungs burned with cold fire, until his muscles screamed and his vision narrowed. He ran harder than he had ever run, driven by urgency he felt in his bones. 4 miles. The distance seemed infinite. His weakened body protested every stride, but he pushed through pain and exhaustion, through the voice in his head that said this was madness, that he was abandoning easy prey, that he was violating every law of survival. Then he saw it. Lights through the trees, orange and warm against the darkness. A fire watch tower, rising above the canopy. Voices carried on the wind. Humans, safe and dry and unaware. The gray wolf burst from the tree line and stood at the forest edge, ribs heaving, breath coming in ragged gasps. Every fiber of his being screamed to stay hidden, to avoid humans, to remember that man was danger and death. But he thought of the ranger alone in the snow, dying. The gray wolf threw back his head and howled. It started low, building in his chest, then erupting into the night like a siren. Long, loud, desperate. Every ounce of urgency he felt poured into that sound. It was not a hunting call, not a territorial warning. It was something else entirely, something that carried the weight of emergency, of wrongness, of help. He howled until his throat was raw, until his voice cracked and broke, paused for breath, then howled again and again, each call echoing through the valley, bouncing off ridges, filling the night with sound that demanded attention. Movement on the tower platform.
Stay calm now.
Figures appeared,
You're safe here.
silhouettes against light. Flashlights clicked on, beams sweeping the darkness until they found him. A gray wolf at the forest edge, howling like the world was ending. What the hell? A male voice, confused. That's not normal. A woman's voice, sharper, more certain. Something's wrong. That's a distress call. It's just a wolf. The male again, uncertain. No, the woman was moving now. He could hear her urgency. I've been out here 8 years. Wolves don't do that unless something's very wrong. And that's coming from the southwest. That's where Jackson went. Jackson's not due back until tomorrow. And he's not answering his radio. The woman's voice was commanding now. Get the emergency kit, call base, tell them we have a possible situation. We're going out. The wolf waited, not fleeing even as more flashlights appeared, even as humans emerged from the tower with equipment. He held his ground, continuing to vocalize. Shorter calls now, urgent barks mixed with howls, his body language screaming follow. This way, hurry. One of the humans, the woman, stared at him for a long moment. She was older, weathered, someone who had lived in wild places long enough to recognize when nature broke its patterns. He wants us to follow him, she said quietly. That's crazy, Sarah. Maybe, but Jackson is out there somewhere, and this wolf is telling us something's wrong. Southwest, that's the direction. Let's move. The gray wolf turned and ran back into the forest, pausing every 100 yards to howl again, to make sure they were following. He could hear them behind him, slower, clumsier, but determined. Flashlight beams cut through darkness, radio chatter crackled. This is insane. Keep moving. I've got fresh prints here. Human, heading deeper in. The wolf led them through the forest, his howls providing waypoints. When they moved off course, he circled back, appearing in their flashlight beams until they corrected. When they slowed, he called with greater urgency. His body was failing, muscles trembling with exhaustion, but he drove himself forward on pure will. Finally, after what felt like hours but was perhaps 40 minutes, he led them to the ranger. The man still lay where the wolf had left him, consciousness gone, skin blue-white in the flashlight beams, but his chest still rose and fell, still alive. Jesus, Jackson. The woman named Sarah dropped to her knees beside him. Call it in. We need evacuation now. Multiple fractures, severe hypothermia, going into shock. The gray wolf watched from 30 feet away, as humans swarmed the ranger, as blankets appeared, and medical equipment, and radio chatter filled the air. His job was done. The debt was paid. He turned to leave, to disappear back into darkness where wolves belonged. Wait, Sarah had looked up, her flashlight finding him in the trees. Their eyes met, human and wolf, both knowing something inexplicable had just occurred. Thank you, she said quietly. The gray wolf held her gaze for one heartbeat, then he vanished into the forest like smoke. The ranger survived. Hypothermia had been minutes from fatal, but the rescue team had arrived in time. They airlifted him out at dawn. Doctors saved his leg through surgery and determination. 3 months of physical therapy followed, but he walked again. The rescue team filed reports that puzzled their superiors. They described a gray wolf acting with apparent purpose, leading them directly to the injured ranger. Sarah included a note. Something happened in those woods that I can't explain, but I know what I saw. When the ranger finally returned to his station 6 months later, he spent his first evening on his porch, watching the tree line. He had brought meat, good venison, and set it at the forest edge before dark. We're even again, he called softly into the trees. Thank you, wolf. No yellow eyes appeared that night, but in the morning the meat was gone, and in the snow beside where it had been, he found a single paw print, 4 toes and claws, unmistakable. The gray wolf stood on a ridge 2 miles away, watching smoke rise from the ranger's chimney. His pack was fed. Spring was coming. He had broken the oldest law of the wild that night, had chosen memory over instinct, debt over hunger. The forest would never care. Nature keeps no record of mercy, but somewhere in the ancient contract between man and beast, a bond had been forged and tested and proven true. Twice now, they had saved each other. Twice, the natural order had bent. The gray wolf howled once more, not in warning, not in hunger, in release. The sound echoed through valleys, a declaration that some debts transcend species, that memory can be stronger than instinct, that the wild still holds mysteries civilization will never fully comprehend. In these woods, no story truly ends. The gray wolf remembers what the forest forgets, that sometimes survival means more than just staying alive. Would you have made the same choice?